are back today with a little bit of an emergency podcast. As it was announced, former five-star quarterback and Georgia transfer JT Daniels is officially headed to Morgantown. Now, for those of you who don't know, Daniels made a visit to West Virginia this past weekend, and then today on Wednesday decided to commit. Daniels will have 2 years of eligibility left, and the quarterback controversy is now over, as it seems like JT will be taking snaps in 141 days, I believe it is, at Heinz Field against Pitt. So, Aaron, I'll start with you. Just your overall thoughts on the signing, thoughts on JT, and what you think this does for the program.
Well, my initial thoughts are this is, at least temporarily, it's a program changer. If you've looked at WVU football over the last few months and years, it hasn't been in the best state. There's been a lot of people, a lot of departures of the program, a lot of maybe shots at Neal Brown, and maybe why he's lost some players. Just the overall, there's been a bad cloud over WVU football over these past 4 or 5 months, going 6-7 and getting killed in a bowl game while only giving up 18 points. Just not very good. But, this is very, very good for Mountaineer football. Very good for college football when you're entering WVU versus Pitt, renewing the rivalry. JT Daniels, he's very good. I mean, you're talking about a former five-star. Just gives me Will Greer vibes when he came to WVU in 2017.
And, he has the experience we've seen. He's done 4 years at 2 blue blood schools, USC and Georgia, and he's played sometime injuries, and then he also got benched for Stetson Bennett this past season. But a former five-star, he has the talent there, and he's shown up with pretty decent stats. I wrote some down here just to bring him up real quick. Across his career, he's thrown for 4,800 yards and has a 32-16 touchdown interception ratio. So it's a great look for WVU. They needed a signing. They needed a mentor in that quarterback room for there's a lot of young quarterbacks there. So having a mentor is nice too.
Yeah, I think another big thing is that it buys Neal Brown time. That's for sure. Neal Brown was 17-18 through his first 3 seasons at West Virginia, and the clock was starting to tick. His seat was starting to get hot, especially in a season where you got 2 big rivalry games in your first couple of weeks there. Like, his seat was getting hot, and I think having a quarterback now that is going to be here for the next 2 years, most likely, it's big. Like, obviously, JT could set the world on fire and go to the NFL. Do we see that happening? I just don't think he's going to be as good. I think, as Aaron said, it's going to be more of a Will Greer kind of get your feet wet in year 1. Hopefully, obviously, he doesn't have that same injury or any injury at all, because that's what's plagued him so far. Obviously, at USC, he dealt with injuries, dealt with the knee, and then going just different injuries, different small things at Georgia that kind of just seemed to keep him off the field. And that's why I ended up here. If we're being honest, is because of injuries.
Yeah, I agree. If you go back and look at his deal with USC before Georgia, USC wasn't in the greatest spot, Clay Helton and all that, but he came in as a 5-star freshman. He was the real deal. He did very good. First year, 2018, threw for over 2,600 yards, 14 touchdowns. They didn't have a great season, but, for a freshman season in a Power 5 conference, he did very good. And they were looking up in 2019, early in the season towards the ACL or something like that. And then Keaton Slovis comes in. It's just like, this is an unfortunate situation. I think, he could have had the keys to that USC program. And now, here we are in 2022, and Graham Harrell is WVU's offensive coordinator. Slovis is at Pitt, and WVU has JT Daniels. At Georgia, I think he had a little, like an oblique injury, and Stetson Bennett, he just stepped up, and like Kirby Smart couldn't take the ball away from him. He was making the throws, win the games necessary, and obviously they won a national championship. So, yeah, I think injuries have plagued him. It's interesting to see if he'll be able to stay healthy for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, Daniels has been in 2 pretty situations so far in his career, and at Georgia it was kind of a tough spot for him because he came in there as a transfer, and many people thought that job was his and he would take it and lead that team. And then when he dealt with the small injuries and then Stetson Bennett playing so well, he took that job from right out of Daniels' hands. So now he leaves those 2 bad situations and comes here into a room that's wide open for him. So I think it's a great stepping stone for him as well as WVU itself.
Yeah, I think one thing about Daniels is that he wanted to go somewhere. He wanted to go somewhere that he could play, and obviously he's the best quarterback in this room. He's probably, in my opinion, he's the best quarterback since Will Grier. I'd say he's more talented than Skylar Howard ever was, and he has the chance to be better than Will Grier. I think with the way this defense has played these last couple of years, especially, although you've lost a lot of pieces, especially in that secondary up front with Akeem, like you've lost pieces on that defensive side of the ball. But I think you lost 3 1-possession games last year. And I think having a better quarterback and having better quarterback play makes up for those 3-point losses to Texas Tech and Oklahoma, makes up for that 6-point loss to Maryland. Like, there's room to win games last year. And I think having a better quarterback is one of those reasons, and will be like, you can see on the schedule how if you had a better quarterback last year, you beat more teams. And I just think that Neal Brown sees that. I think another big thing going back to his USC days, he had Graham Harrell, and Graham Harrell is now here. So him being comfortable with Graham, him knowing Graham's system for the most part, him knowing what he wants to do, I think that's big. I also think having a offensive style that the quarterback's going to throw the ball more than last year. Like, although you have a really good running back room and you have 3-4 backs that are really good, this team's going to throw the ball. They're going to try and make plays, and JT Daniels can throw the ball all around the yard. And I just think that the intrigue of him playing in the Big 12 compared to, like, as we said, Oregon State, if he went that route in the Pac-12, like playing in the Big 12, you've got 3 primetime games on Thursday night this year. You got 2 of them that are probably going to be on big time national TV in Pitt and Virginia Tech. So, like, he's going to have eyeballs on him. He's going to have his shot, and he's going to have his chance to possibly go win a league championship.
Yeah, I think it's a good decision for him. I mean, he's comfortable with Graham Harrell. You're talking about, a former Heisman finalist himself. He can throw the ball, and he knows how to teach quarterbacks. He was comfortable with him at USC, and I think he's comfortable coming here and kind of taking the keys. As far as like the team goes and WVU's program, like you said, Wesley, I mean, Neal Brown's time was kind of ticking. I think he knew that. I think he knew that, if you lose to Pitt, Virginia Tech, you're gone probably midseason, something like that. So he goes out, the university goes out and gets Graham Harrell. I mean, that's a big get. So I think this year, maybe the next year, you heard Harrell talking about like he expects to score year 1. He doesn't expect to, just not score year 1 and then year 2, year 3, maybe year 4, they're air raid. He expects to score all the time. I think it's going to be more of, put the ball down and then like, let's throw, kind of thing like that. WVU, especially last year, it felt like Neal Brown's teams were kind of like playing not to lose. If you watch that Oklahoma game, they were just like bleeding clock, playing not to lose, playing conservative to keep themselves in the game. I don't think it's going to be like that at all this year. I think you're going to get more of an offensive like show. And then I think there's a good running back room to work with there too. So I think it's going to be less games where there's like 1 or 2 touchdown passes.
Going back to what both of you guys have mentioned now, I think those close losses that we've had that WVU has had during the season, those close losses don't happen if we have better quarterback play. And I think JT Daniels can bring that. And over his starting career at Georgia, he's shown that. He went 7-0 and he was able to close out victories during his time there. And I think having that be able to that clutch ability is something that West Virginia, the quarterback room, is needed down the stretch.
Yeah, I think if you have a quarterback like Daniels, you definitely don't lose at Maryland. Absolutely not. You probably don't lose at home against Texas Tech. Maybe
Maryland was strictly quarterback
yeah.
play.
Maybe you have a better chance to win that bowl game against Minnesota. Maybe you're looking at 8 or 9 wins.
On the road at Norman is a dogfight then if you have a better quarterback play.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
There, yeah.
Like I said, Neal was playing not to lose in that game, playing conservative, and maybe it would have worked, but WVU snapped the ball minus 21 yards. So it's going to be very different. And if you have a guy like Slovis or Daniels or somebody that can like really throw the ball with a good OC, you're not going to lose those games like you lose to Maryland and Oklahoma.
Yeah, I just think one big thing for me is that I think where we have to applaud Neal Brown here is that he sensed that there needed to be a change. He talked about how the time of there was a big long period of reflection after that Minnesota game, after that bowl game, and how he talked about how he felt like he was at a crossroads in his career and how he felt this program had to go somewhere, and that now that he's made changes. He went and got rid of Jared Parker. He went and he went and got a new receivers coach, went and got a new OC, and I think it's starting to all come together. And he realizes that we've built the defensive side of the ball here, and Jordan Leslie's a phenomenal coordinator, and he's going to keep doing his job. And so it's a matter of the offensive side of the ball coming with it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, Leslie's proved that, he can get, a defense rolling no matter how many transfers there are really. But, offense has been a real big problem. WVU fans, they were tired of it, to be honest with you. So when I looked down at my phone, I saw Graham Harrell got hired. That's a big move. So you do have to applaud Neal Brown for going out and getting somebody like Harrell, who wasn't just a good quarterback, but, he's got experience. He's been with USC, proved himself at North Texas. I mean, if you look at Mason Fine's career at North Texas, I mean, Harrell did really good with him. So you got to applaud Neal, and hopefully the on-field results will back him up on that.
I also applaud Neal here because, I mean, even despite all the transfers that have left the program at WVU, he's went out and he's kept his focus, and he even mentioned that following the Mesidor transfer that he wasn't going to keep fighting, and he went out and went on the recruiting trail and got JT Daniels here. So I applaud him for that. And West Virginia's definitely had a lot of luck in the transfer portal recently with basketball and football. I know it's not basketball season, but we've had luck in the basketball transfer portal and football transfer portal. So a lot of things are going right now for the program.
I think another thing to kind of highlight is what was a couple weeks ago, maybe the coaches luncheon, or maybe it's just a regular press conference from Neal Brown. He was kind of giving an update on quarterback play. Nico's new here. He said he had some highs and lows. Same with Goose, throwing some picks in practice. And we kind of know where Garrett Green's game lies, kind of alpha mentality, great leader, but can he step up and make the throws? So it's just good. I mean, WVU fans have been very frustrated over the last couple of years. And once you hear that, spring practice has started and Nico's not really taking over because he's young. I mean, he's 18 years old. And nobody's really stepping up and taking that job. Neal said, if need be, we go out and get somebody, and he did that. So
I think that's word there because he said he would.
Yeah, he did. I really didn't think he would.
He would either.
I was kind of thinking Jackson Dart or bust, but once he went to Ole Miss, I credit him for going out and getting somebody else.
I also think there's one point that this was not on Neal said we're gonna wait till the spring game if we're going to find someone. And we're still a week and a half away from the spring game here in Morgantown. And Neal went out and found his guy. So I think there's also some level of where it's an indictment on the three guys in that room right now and the way they're battling. I think it's that I think West Virginia knows the floor is very low with a guy like Garrett Green and his mistakes, but they also know his ceiling, and they know his ceiling is not the same ceiling as JT Daniels' ceiling. And I just think that the most important position in sports, I think professionally or in college, is the quarterback position, just because they can change a game so much. And it's good that West Virginia, I think fans can have a sigh of relief tonight that West Virginia finally has found their guy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, since the Neal Brown era, sorry, Zach, since the Neal Brown era started, I mean, you're looking at Austin Kendall and Jarrett Dagey. I mean, there's not much to talk about there. Not trying to rip on anybody, but you're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6 games, 6+ games that are decided by quarterback play dating back to 2019. And WVU fans were obviously not happy about it. So getting a guy that can put, fans in their seats. I know WVU doesn't really have trouble selling out stadiums, but I mean, to get the fan base back into it with a good quarterback, I mean, because there hasn't been anything really close to that over the last couple of years.
This is a little off topic based on what you guys have just talked about, but I'm kind of following how he's going to get acclimated with the program here. I mean, with announcing the transfer, I'm assuming he'll be on campus soon. And I'm wondering throughout Neal's press conferences coming up and spring practice still rolling up until the spring game, I'm wondering how quick Daniels will become acclimated with the program. I think now with Harrell, I think it'll help that he's been in his system before. But I think that could be something to watch there.
I think what I heard today is that he won't be here until May. He's gonna go finish his degree at Georgia. From what I've heard and between the people I've talked to, he's gonna go finish at Georgia, and then he's gonna come here in late May. So he's gonna have the summer
Okay.
to get acclimated, see Graham, and then he's gonna have Then he's gonna have fall camp, and fall camp's gonna be go 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 QB1 reps, and it's gonna happen. I think having that experience that he does, it's easier for him than say a guy like uh, Garrett or Nico, who's kind of new. But I do think that it's going to be easier for him because he's been there, done that. But I don't think he will be here until after the spring semester ends in Georgia.
Okay. I hadn't heard about it, so I wasn't sure.
Well, and like you said, Wesley, it's probably easier for him being at a program like USC and Georgia and doing it. But if that's true, then he's gonna have to step up. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When he announced he's coming, I mean, everybody said it's his job, and it is his job. But WVU plays Pitt week 1. I mean, so he's got to step up, and I think he will. I'm confident that he will. He's been with 2 very, very big schools, and he's proven that he can get it and get it done. I mean, I think he's going to be able to come in and fall camp, and I don't, maybe missing spring ball is not the biggest deal in the world for a guy like that.
I think the biggest thing for him, and when I was watching some of his highlights earlier this afternoon, is that he's had some dudes wherever he's gone. Like, obviously he was throwing to Michael Pittman, an NFL guy. He was throwing to Amon-Ra St. Brown, an NFL guy at USC. Then at Georgia, he had an elite running game. He had receivers that went and got the ball. Now you have a group of skill position players, especially on the outside there, that aren't the most elite in the world. Like Bryce Ford, all right, he's good. Like, but besides him, who else in this room, like in this wide receiver room, is standing out? Like, I think obviously they have a couple of coming in, and Neal might try and go get another receiver. I'm not sure who's out there, but I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is there's a talent difference between what he had at USC and Georgia and what he's going to have here at West Virginia.
I still think, despite that talent difference, that Daniels will make it work. That's just in my opinion, based off of it seemed like in these past 2 seasons with Jared Deggy, the receivers have been there, the plays have been there, and the routes have been run well. And sometimes Deggy just wouldn't make the throw. And that's something that I think Daniels could solve for the Mountaineer offense.
Yeah, and with the receivers, I mean, Ford Wheaton and Sam James are both experienced. We've seen them have drop issues. I'm more confident in Ford Wheaton than anybody else. He's he's a big receiver on that outside. Proved himself to be kind of wide receiver number 1 for WVU last year. Not to say that he won't drop balls, but I trust him more than Sam James in the nicest way possible. He's struggled with drops for 2+ years now. But I don't know. Neal said he's going to get Reese Smith involved more. I know he's out of the slot position, very small, so I don't know how much he can really change a game, but you're going to see him more than last year. Neal said I think he should have used him more last year. So a guy like Reese Smith and then Caden Prather, I mean, he'll be a sophomore. He's got talent, but obviously he's still young, and he's got probably some drop and consistency issues to work through, but he'll be good too.
I think raw talent, Prather's probably the best receiver out of the group that's here right now. But overall game right now, I'd have to give it to Bryce Ford first, obviously, just because he's been there, done that. Prather's going to be a true sophomore this year, so a lot of room for improvement. One more thing before we head out this evening. We're now 141 days away from Pitt, and you've got a big storyline in that each starting quarterback would have played with each other at USC and knows Graham Harrell, the West Virginia offensive coordinator. So I just want to get your thoughts. I'll start with Zach here. Like, your thoughts on the game and how, like, I would say I feel more confident if I'm a West Virginia fan about week 1 against Pitt now that JT's here. Like, what are your thoughts?
I definitely say the confidence is much higher for West Virginia fans and within the program now than it was a day ago. But Daniel is being acclimated with Harrell before. I think that's going to jumpstart the offense, and going into Pitt, it's going to be a telltale sign of Brown's season. I think if we go into Pitt and we have a competitive game and lose close, it could be a showing sign of our season. But if we come and dominate, that could be something that also could show that we could be going towards 8, 9, 10 plus wins this season. So I think the Pitt game is a very good marker of how the season could go. And if Harrell and Daniels can have that offense working well together from week one, then I think we have a great chance.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this game is going to be big time. I mean, I think it's going to be one of the most anticipated football games regular season wise since I can remember, since I
maybe since that Oklahoma game for Black Friday to go to the Big 12 championship, I'd say.
Yeah. Will Grier era, Geno Smith era, something like that. It's a highly anticipated game.
It's the biggest game of Neal Brown's career, hands down. It'll be the biggest game.
Absolutely.
Easily, it's way bigger than what was his biggest game last year. Virginia Tech at home. I mean, it's going to be way bigger. You're gonna, it's going to be a hostile environment.
You're gonna have there's gonna be a lot of Mountaineer fans up there in Pittsburgh too.
Yeah, I think there'll be just as much WVU fans as Pitt fans. You're talking about a WVU fan that's WVU team and program that's transitioning into this new kind of Graham Harrell, Air Raid, JT Daniels kind of thing. And how about Pitt? I mean, Pitt just came off an ACC championship. Obviously, the opponent was Wake Forest. So, I mean, but still, that Kenny Pickett was there for 5 years. So they are transitioning as well. They have a talented quarterback. And, I think a lot of people are going to watch it because, well, it'll probably be the only game on that day, right? Or if not the only
one. It's like that Thursday night game. Like, it's either West Virginia and Pitt or Memphis versus.
Yeah. You're not going to watch Maction over, Pitt versus West Virginia. I think a lot of people will watch it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like similar situations between WVU and Pitt going into the same game. I mean, both teams are transitioning, like Aaron said, and I think that's going to spell some madness, I think, during that game.
And WVU and Pitt, you're talking about a rivalry that's played 100 plus times, and they haven't played since 2011. In that 2011 game, WVU won by 1 point. I mean, if Pitt comes in and beats WVU doesn't go to the Orange Bowl. They don't win the Orange Bowl. So that was a big game, and there has not been a matchup between the Panthers and the Mountaineers since that. So there's going to be a lot of buildup, and I think there's going to be a lot of scrums and a lot of referees having to break guys up. But hopefully it'll be clean enough to where it's a good football game.
Can you imagine the bad taste in all of West Virginia's mouths as Pitt probably raises an ACC championship banner or has some sort of ceremony and reflection on this past season? I can just already imagine it not going well, and there's probably going to be some looks, some words said, and I think that's just part of the rivalry. And I think that's what this school's been without it. It's been without a true rival since 2012 when it joined the Big 12. This is your shot to go get them, go get the first one for the next 4 years.
I can already hear the boos during the banner raising ceremony. I can already hear them.
And I'm sorry, Pitt versus Wake Forest in the ACC championship. I'm calling that Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse ACC championship.
Do you guys have anything else? That's all I have.
Nope. Good.
Well, if you made it this far, we do appreciate you listening. Once again, former 5-star recruit JT Daniels is headed to Morgantown, 141 days away from Pitt. Things are starting to ramp up slowly but surely. Spring games in about 10 days here in West Virginia. Until then, until next time you listen to us, we do appreciate you listening. I'm Wesley Shoemaker, joined by Aaron Parker and Zachary Anderson. Thank you for listening. This is the BlueGoldSports.com podcast.